No. Good morning. Today is the 27th of Sivan, the 16th of June, and we're finishing up this short essay. And this is 6 months with the balsam oil. וזהו 6 חודשים בשמן המור. אם רוצה לחדש 6 המידות ולהעלותם מבחינת נוקבה, הנקרא 6 בלא ה', מבחינת חורה נקרא 6 בה', אז יהיה בשמן המור, שמן מבחינת כהן, חוכמה, המור, כמו שכתוב, שפתותיו שושנים, ודי למבין. So, what's he saying here? He's saying that if a person feels that their emotions are gone, that they don't care like we started with, that they have no emotional ties to the world, they become Hindu, for lack of a better description, where attachment is discouraged. You shouldn't be attached to anything. And Yiddishkeit is the opposite. You should be attached. You should have many attachments. You can't have expectations, but you have many attachments. It's a very difficult line. We don't try to prevent suffering. Right? In India, they try to prevent suffering. The main goal is that you shouldn't suffer. Say it another way. It's like when you send your kid off to a tiyul, to a trip, and you say to him, the most important thing is he come back home safely. No, the most important thing is that he's going on a trip. He should enjoy himself. That's the point. Beyond that, you don't know. The world is a strange place. There are risks in everything. So the whole concept that I can prevent suffering by not attaching to anything, by having no attachment, by having no emotional investment in anything, is the equivalent of suicide. It's like you're saying, I'm not going to live. So you have to have attachment. There's no, you can't live. It doesn't make sense that a human being should live any other way. People who say, I'm not going to have children because I'm going to bring children into such a terrible world. So make the world a better place. What are you talking about? It's not the entire world that's terrible. It's your little sliver that you've seen that seems to you to be so terrible. The world's not terrible. But the real reason people say this is because they're afraid. They have tons of fear. They don't, or maybe they have a ton of ego and they don't want to give their time and their energy to another person, to another human being. But in the end, you have to have emotional attachment. So he said, if a person feels that he's become, and here he calls it nukva, he's become feminine. The opposite, the archetypes of feminine and masculine in Chasidut literally mean someone who's mashpia, someone who's mikabel, someone who is giving, who is investing, who is with affluence and providing. And the nukva, the feminine, is the one who's receiving. You need both sides. But if you feel that you're too much on the receiving side, and you're not able to produce yourself, you're not able to give yourself. So he says the Eitzah, the advice is that you should be in the balsam oil for 6 months. And he gives here a very nice little remez. And the remez is that Shisha Chodashim is the masculine form of months. So it's lechadesh. Shisha is like Chodashim is a chadesh, is to renew. So to renew the masculine form, you need shemen amol. You need the balsam oil. What's the balsam oil? So here there's no really good explanation of what the balsam oil is. It just says that shemen is b'chinat kohen, and that's chokhmah. The oil is chokhmah, is wisdom. Like we said, that wisdom is the kohen, is the priest inside of us. So the priest inside of us, the bittul, right? That's what he described. The true bittul. He says that is what renews the emotions. This needs to be thought about. What do you mean? How come? Because we said it's true bittul. There's no emotions there, because there's no one who is feeling this. There's no one who is. So he's saying something very interesting. He's saying that it's the egotistic or the the emotions driven by my feeling of self that eventually run out of steam. But the emotions that are the product of the Abba, of the father principle, that he sweetens the mother principle, and she gives birth to new emotions. It says that doesn't run out of steam. Or in any case, that's how to give birth to new emotions. It's a new reality that the person goes into. But you have to be, not necessarily 6 months. It just says you have to be first in a state of I have no emotions, to nullify myself. And then when you come out of that, the new emotions that you feel are first of all renewed, and they're much stronger than the previous ones, if you've run out of them, if you don't have them. So for instance, when it comes to godliness, to feel emotional about godliness, it's exactly the same. If a person doesn't, just recently I was in Miami and I met someone there. And he asked me, what do I do when in the middle of the day I run out of steam? I don't have any more strength to do what I need to do. So I told him the eitzah that I've heard is that you say Shema. You don't just say Shema. Like we said, you say Shema in the sense of complete bittul. That if I was to disappear from the world and the world would continue on, everything would be just fine and dandy. There's no need for me here. That's bittul b'metzius. That's what it means to be nullified in your being. A person can imagine what happens if you take me out of the world now. And the world will continue. It's a fine world.
Collapse.
The world will collapse.
Yeah.
The world wouldn't even notice. The problem is that I'm the only one who's noticing this so much, who's noticing my existence so much. So take it out. You don't do it forever. You don't really want to die. You just want to take a step back and see the world for what it is. It continues without you. There's just this, if you read the Niflot this week.
No,
So,
give me one.
because they didn't print it.
Why?
The English one they didn't print. Who knows? I only work there. But in the Hebrew one, I'll put it in hopefully next week's in English. There's a sicha that he gave about how do you answer the Epicorus today. The Epicorus today, he says he's logical. He's actually logical. He says all I know about from Kant on is that there's me and there's the world. I don't see God here anywhere. What are you talking about? Where's God? So he took the pasuk, "B'mareh v'lo b'chidot," that I show myself to Moshe Rabbeinu with a vision, not with riddles. Meaning he sees right away exactly what I mean. He took that and he said something. All year long I've been teaching this. I didn't even realize you could teach it on this pasuk. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Mar'eh is also mar'ah, like a mirror. So what do you see when you look in the mirror? You see yourself and you see the world. What's the difference? That when you look in the mirror, you can't see the self. When you're here, you are you. You feel yourself. And you feel the world around you. When you look in the mirror, you see you as an object. You don't see you as the subject, the way you're used to. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's still you. Mm-hmm. But there's no feeling of self there. You can't identify with that guy in the mirror. You only identify with the guy who's between your eyes here. You can't feel that that's you. That's a beautiful way to do it with your eyes open. Think about that picture.
In the mirror. You throw a stone in the mirror.
You won't feel anything.
Reflection, you don't feel it.
But it's not just that. You cannot identify with it even. In fact, if you're like most from men, and you don't look in the mirror at all, you probably don't even recognize the guy there. Who is that? But even if you do recognize, it doesn't matter. You still cannot project yourself there. You don't know how to do that. Most people don't know how to do that. And so there you're looking at yourself as if you weren't here in the best possible way. You're here, but you're not here. You're like in a photograph. It's a beautiful way to nullify. That's shem and amol. That's to be in the balsam oil. Amol, usually, as I said, is merirut. Is to be bitter. But bitter in the sense of bitter because I have many, many deficiencies. Not because I'm bitter about the world, but because I myself have many deficiencies I haven't fixed. But here you see it even better. It's not just, that's called bittul hayesh. If you're bitter, that's bittul hayesh. That's just being uh, nullifying the feeling of self. But here it's nullifying my being. Well, it could be that looking in the mirror is a little bit more like nullification of the self because you can't identify the self there. But if you close your eyes and say Shema, you completely nullify your being. You can completely nullify your being. When you finish and you come back into the world, then the feeling is of complete rejuvenation. And you feel that all your emotions are completely new. Like they expand in a way that is surprising. And you feel refreshed. So this guy, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I can't tell you how much you saved my life. He said, it's not my advice, it's the Tanya's advice, basically. That's what it says in chapter 33 to do. It doesn't say to say Kriya Shema, it says to look, to contemplate this. But the easiest way is you close your eyes, say Kriya Shema, and you focus on Hashem. And I'm not a party here to this whole thing. And when you open your eyes, it's something you're completely rejuvenated. So that's what he's saying here. And I remembered, and we said this yesterday, that there's a Hayom Yom that says that that's what they used to do. They did 6 months of this type of contemplation, and then 6 months of spices, which we'll see in a second, before they went into the first Yechidus. And I can't find it. I looked for half an hour. The Yom Yom's not that big. But I remember that it says that. I don't know where it is. Maybe somebody who's watching this will find this Yom Yom for me. In any case, and then V'shisha chodashim b'psamim. Then it should be 6 months in the spices. Spices are already the Levites. They're the bina. They're the understanding here. Em amidot. They're the attributes, the character traits. Ke'adu avodat HaLevim. And that is the service of the Levites in you. Uvazeh b'bchinat zeh hi ba'a el hamelech. Hana'ara ba'a el hamelech. With this, she comes to the king. With this, you can come to the king. What is this? Ze keili v'anveu. How much is ze? How much is ze equal to? 12. It's a famous thing that ze is 12. So what are these 12? The shisha chodashim b'shemen hamol, the 6 months in the balsam oil, and the 6 months in the spices. And then with this, she comes to the king. Then you can come to the b'chinat nukva shesh. It should be a 6, like in the feminine. So this needs a little bit more explanation because it's a little bit more complex. But the maiden comes to the king, the aspect of the female. 6 comes to the king, the aspect of the male. And all in the aspect of this, and it is sufficient for the understanding of those who understand what it means. But the whole idea is that the spices, which are the contemplation about things in the world, it's not nullification, it's real contemplation, that makes the midos strong and makes them into something that can perceive godliness. And you have to have both. So you have to start with nullifying the midos, you have to start with nullifying your existence and your emotions and everything. Then you contemplate and you strengthen them, and then you can come to the king, as it were. You can enter into the world and feel that the world is godly. We'll end here. So I wanted to see that Yechidut, Ba'al HaMelech there is to come to the Rebbe. And obviously, Uvazehi Ba'al HaMelech, with these 12 months she comes to the king, is that she comes to Yechidus, to the Alter Rebbe. But like I said, I couldn't find it. I don't know where it is. I hope I didn't dream it. But so next week we'll start a new one.